Ever since March 1961, Tanganyika has been looking forward to independence. The enthusiasm of the people grew. The atmosphere of pent-up excitement was making itself felt. At Dar es Salaam airport, the crowds waited to welcome Tanganyika's guests for the independence celebrations. All the time, planes were arriving from many parts of the world, bringing more and more visitors to be present on this great occasion. His Worship the Mayor and a real African welcome awaited Mrs. Charlotte Pugh from Mansfield, USA, Dar es Salaam's twin city in America. Mrs. Pugh is chairman of the sister committee. The governor, Sir Richard Turnbull, and the Prime Minister, Mr. Julius Nyerere, received the President of Togo. Before leaving the airport, the President inspected the Guard of Honor. All over the country, religious services were being held, and Tanganyikans of all races and creeds asked God's blessing and guidance at this time of independence. In Dar es Salaam, His Eminence L'Orient Cardinal Rugambwa, the first African to be elevated to such high office in the Roman Catholic Church, said High Mass. Friday, December the 8th, and the unveiling of the Independence Monument. Mr. Julius Nyerere, the Prime Minister, arrived for the ceremony which he, more than anyone else in Tanganyika, had made possible. The Minister for Home Affairs, Mr. George Kahama, said of the 33-foot-high obelisk, it symbolizes the struggle, the hope, and the achievement of a nation. The Prime Minister referred to it as a modest monument, saying that the real monument of the people of Tanganyika is yet to be built. It is going to be a nation. This flame and this monument, said the Prime Minister, symbolize that objective of nationhood and show us the light, the hope, and the confidence to achieve it. That same afternoon, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh was greeted by the Governor and Lady Turnbull and the Prime Minister, who welcomed him on behalf of his people. Prince Philip inspected the Guard of Honor, mounted by 100 men of the 6th Battalion, the King's African Rifles. Then the Chief Justice, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the members of the Cabinet, the Mayor, and the heads of the services and the police were presented before His Royal Highness left the airport. The official reception was over. It now remained for the people themselves to greet their royal visitor. And what a welcome they gave him. All the way from the airport to Government House, the streets were lined with people. Dar es Salaam was ablaze with decorations. Triumphal arches spanned the streets. Flags and bunting were everywhere. Night saw an even more glittering display. The city and harbor aglow with multicolored lights. At the state banquet in the Diamond Jubilee Hall, the governor proposed the toast, Her Majesty the Queen. Then the Prime Minister asked the guests to drink to His Royal Highness, saying that he symbolizes all that is most fresh and modern in this changing, stimulating Commonwealth which we now so gladly enter. In his reply, Prince Philip said, "I am here particularly to represent the Queen. She asked me especially to bring to you and to the people of Tanganyika her own personal message, congratulations, and a very sincere welcome to the Commonwealth family." And the toast he gave was Tanganyika. The eve of independence, a tattoo in the National Stadium. In the presence of His Royal Highness, the Governor, and some 70,000 spectators, the Tanganyika military and police bands and the Kenya military band opened a display unsurpassed in Tanganyika's history. Part of the program was given by lads of the Police Cadet Corps. They moved smartly, like toy soldiers, to the sound of a drum. Then, as midnight approaches, the first part of the independence ceremonial. The regimental colours bearing the battle honours of many a hard-fought engagement were handed over by the King's African Rifles to a guard of Tanganyika Rifles. Gradually, the outward signs of the British administration were going from Tanganyika. But a legacy of good government remained, and more than once in his speeches, Mr. Nyerere referred to it with gratitude. Then there were prayers for the future, prayers for guidance in the days ahead. Soon, the Union Jack would fly no more over Tanganyika. God Save the Queen would be replaced by God Bless Africa. From Dar es Salaam to the snows of Kilimanjaro, the highest point of the African continent, and here too the flag was raised and a torch lit. All over the country there was joy, thankfulness, and the determination to achieve greatness. Tanganyika was at last an independent, sovereign state. Next day, December the 9th, 1961, in the National Stadium, the official transfer of power took place. Guests had come from all over the world for the great occasion to congratulate the man of the moment, Julius Nyerere, first Prime Minister of Tanganyika and the man who had led the way to independence. His statesmanship at the council table and his leadership at home now had their reward in these hours of hope fulfilled. Sir Richard Turnbull had steered and helped the country and its government towards this day. He is held in deep affection by all who have worked with him in the task of bringing Tanganyika to a sovereign, independent state. Now he was to be sworn in as the country's first Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of its forces. The Registrar of the High Court read the commission given under the Royal Sign Manual and Signet, appointing him to the office of Her Majesty's representative. Afterwards, His Excellency addressed the vast crowd, which for the second time in 8 hours packed the National Stadium. Then His Royal Highness arrived. He had come to deliver to Mr. Nyerere, on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen, the constitutional instruments embodying the changeover of power. At the foot of the dais, he was accorded a royal salute, and the British national anthem was played. Her Majesty the Queen, in her personal message, said, "I am confident that your country, standing firmly by the ideals of unity and cooperation, and the principles of tolerance in human relations, all of which are so evident in your national life today, will make a worthy and significant contribution to the future of the great continent of which you form a part." In reply, Mr. Nyerere said, "This is the day for which we have looked for so long, the day when every Tanganyikan can say, 'I am the citizen of a sovereign, independent state.' Joyful though the moment is, you have rightly reminded us that it is a moment heavy with responsibility. This our people will appreciate. Let me now pay tribute to all who have helped us forward to this happy day of the culmination of our hopes. First to the people of Tanganyika, and then to those true friends at home and overseas. May God guide us all so that our country goes forward in happiness and prosperity, and in fellowship with the nations of the world." As the Duke left the dais, aircraft of the Royal Air Force dipped low in salute. Away in the harbor, the guns joined in as the new nation was born. All the world honored Tanganyika, new recruit to the long roll of independent states, and the 29th in Africa. At the conclusion of his speech, His Royal Highness had welcomed Tanganyika to the British Commonwealth of Nations. Now he took leave of Mr. Nyerere. Earlier he had said that Tanganyika's advance to independence had been due in no small measure to the temperate good sense and enlightened political leadership of the Prime Minister. After his departure, Mr. Nyerere and his ministers took and subscribed the ministerial oath, assisted by the Chief Justice and the Secretary of the Cabinet. Later that day, Mr. Nyerere addressed the nation by radio, and his words are of deep significance. "It is a great day for us. It is a day on which we feel joy and great pride. But also, I think for many of us, there is a deep feeling of humility in the face of the responsibility to our descendants which we now hold. We are joyful because this is a day of triumph. By our unity, we have overcome many setbacks to our plans. We have won international recognition of our existence as a nation and our right to stand as equals with any man on earth. Let us open our hearts and minds to freedom and to all that it means." the man whom Prince Philip had called the architect of independence drove away, cheered by those to whom he had referred as the builders, the people of Tanganyika. For the rest of the day, people throughout the country celebrated in the way they enjoy the most, with music and with dancing. Independence was theirs. There were responsibilities to shoulder, but today was Uhuru Day, and only happiness was in order. As the people danced, so did their leaders and the distinguished visitors. For late that same evening, the Durban Jubilee Hall was the scene of a great state occasion, a ball given by the government in honor of the country's guests. His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh joined in the fun, and the floor was crowded with happy people. As the people danced, so did their leaders and the distinguished visitors. For late that same evening, the Durban Jubilee Hall was the scene of a great state occasion, a ball given by the government in honor of the country's guests. His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh joined in the fun, and the floor was crowded with happy people. Next day was Sunday, and morning service at the Collegiate Church of St. Alban the Martyr was attended by His Excellency and Lady Turnbull, and His Royal Highness, who read the lesson, signed the church register. The civic reception at Karimjee Hall. The guests were greeted by His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Sheikh Amri Abedi. His Royal Highness, accompanied by His Excellency the Governor-General, was received by the Minister of Local Government, the Honourable J.M. Lucinda, who in turn presented the Mayor and Town Clerk, Mr. O.T. Hamlin. This was the occasion when Dar es Salaam became a city. But before the ceremonies began, the Town Clerk read a loyal address from the Municipal Council. When the address had been read, it was presented to Prince Philip, together with the key. During his reply, the Duke, reading a message from the Queen, said, "It is my sincere hope that the new city of Dar es Salaam, together with all its people, will enjoy continued happiness and prosperity through the years to come." Then he presented to the Mayor the Charter and Letters Patent conferring city status on Dar es Salaam. In reply, the Mayor said, "December the 10th will be remembered as the birthday of the city." He then asked His Royal Highness to accept the scroll and become the first freeman of the new city as an expression of gratitude for the honor he had conferred by his presence. Prince Philip then signed the roll of honor. The new coat of arms will be a lasting reminder of this day. Members of the council and other civic dignitaries were introduced to His Royal Highness, who took the opportunity of talking personally with many of them. It had been a great day in the history of Dar es Salaam. Now dignified with the status of city and honored by its position as the capital of independent Tanganyika, it had the Queen's husband as first freeman. In the afternoon, there was another party, this time in the gardens of Government House. Over 2,000 people had been invited. His Royal Highness and Sir Richard Turnbull came out to mingle with the guests. and the occasion had a happy atmosphere of informality. All walks of life were represented, and the Duke was able to meet a cross-section of the country's people. As the Tanganyikan flag had been broken at the National Stadium, so a flag was raised and a beacon lit on the peak of Kilimanjaro, 19,000 feet up. Now the Duke met the man who scaled the mountain and raised the flag, Second Lieutenant Alexander Nyerere, 25 years old, and the first African from Tanganyika to be commissioned at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. He and 5 others made up the expedition, and they received congratulations from the Prime Minister as well. The state opening of Parliament. Many distinguished people arrived for this very important occasion. It symbolized, as nothing else could do, Tanganyika's new status of self-determination. The House rose as His Royal Highness's procession made its way into the chamber. He had come to open Parliament and to read the speech from the throne. Sir Richard and Lady Turnbull followed the Prince. All the traditions of the British parliamentary system are observed. These safeguards of democracy, proved over the centuries at Westminster, have found their way into many lands where the rights and freedom of the people are considered above all else, and Tanganyika is now one of them. After Mr. Speaker had read the letters patent under the Royal Sign Manual and Signet, empowering His Royal Highness to open this, the first Parliament of independent Tanganyika, the Prime Minister presented the speech from the throne. This, by tradition, outlines the policy of the government for the coming session. In the forefront of its tasks, the Duke said, would be concerned with the problems confronting the countries of the African continent and the seeking of brotherly cooperation with other African states. Finally, the Duke added his own personal congratulations and prayed that God would guide the deliberations of Parliament for the permanent good of Tanganyika. Mr. Nyerere made a typical exposition of his faith using these words. Poor though we may be, we are strong in the newfound sense of nationhood and in the support of friends. Guided by the high sentiments which have found expression in the gracious speech, I am confident that we shall not falter in our course. The ceremonies, hallowed by the tradition of centuries, were over, and slowly, in solemn procession, His Royal Highness left the chamber. It had been an occasion which underlined the responsibility of the elected members to legislate wisely and rule justly for the lasting good of all who dwell in Tanganyika. When His Royal Highness had departed, Parliament adjourned, and the Prime Minister too left the chamber. He was followed by those whom the people have elected to guide their affairs. Now, all too soon, the time came for the Duke's departure from Dar es Salaam. Mr. Nyerere was at the airport to say goodbye. Although His Royal Highness was not actually leaving Tanganyika, he was to enjoy a day or two's holiday in the game reserves. But this was the official farewell, and His Excellency and Lady Turnbull were there. During his short stay, the Duke had earned the respect and admiration of the whole country, and Tanganyikan people were sorry to see him leave. He took off in a red Heron aircraft of the Queen's flight, piloting the plane himself. dipped a wing in salute to Tanganyika and its people as he flew away. The Duke had gone, but the rejoicing continued with a great carnival procession through the streets of the capital. The coming of independence had been marked, as all important occasions are, by many ceremonies. But it was in the deep happiness of the people that their determination to work for the future greatness of their country was most clearly revealed. This resolution of the whole country to plan well for the future was demonstrated by the great exhibition. The design of the national crest is based on the torch of achievement by the people and on the natural resources of the country.
Karibu ndugu mtazamaji wa TBC1 katika kipindi ambacho siku ya leo kinakwenda kukuonyesha uzalendo ulivyotamalaki kwa wahandisi wa dada, wahandisi wanawake ambao wamebahatika kufanya kazi